Oh, yes, we are ready to go.
All righty. Welcome back to the March 19th, 2024 Washington County Board of Commissioners Zoom and regular meeting. We'll now move on to topic 5, 2024 State Legislative Wrap-Up.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. You have your full set of GR folks. Interspersed, we will do chair rotations as necessary. We are happy to be here this afternoon. I am Erin Doyle, your Senior Government Relations Manager, and I am proud to say I will be talking the least out of all of us today because the team is ready to tell you what happened. So today we are going to go through a wrap up of the 2024 state legislative session. First highlighting what happened on the priorities that this board adopted in preparation for the 2024 session. And then we'll go into the legislative hot topics, those big issues where there's a lot of impact on county. And then highlight what we expect the interim work to look like, and then planning for the 2025 session, because it's never too early to start the plan. So just as a reminder, and then I will step out, the legislative priorities were adopted by the board in December of 2023 for the 2024 session. The county had 3 priorities, and Clean Water Services had more. And they're highlighted here just to remind you of what they are, but really looking to maintain our ability to do the work that we need to do as a county through resources, workforce, and then focusing in on the courthouse and how we serve those justice needs. And then in Clean Water Services, of course, always looking for opportunities for infrastructure investment, protecting our ability to do the financing that you need to do. Water quality as part of their mission and their resiliency work. So with that, I am going to step away from the chair and turn it over to my colleagues to talk about priority 1.
Thank you, Erin. Pablo Nieves Valenzuela, Government Relations Manager, for the record. So the first topic I want to touch on here is just community corrections. We were able to obtain $16 million in funding for statewide for community corrections programs. So that funding was included in HB 5204, and it's intended to backfill funding that was cut at the beginning of the biennium, which you all are aware of. And just so you all know, the amount of funding that we expect to get out of that is about $4.4 million. And that is specifically to make sure that we do not have to lay off folks, and we can mitigate personnel action as a result of that. So yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Carly.
Sorry,
go ahead.
just because I'm trying to keep track. Do we have, and maybe I should be waiting, but on this topic of community corrections, is there either some work group or interim work with regard to revisiting actual cost study or the whole reimbursement system? If it's listed later in the slide,
It's actually not, so that's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, there is a cost study that's going to be happening later on this year in partnership with the Department of Corrections.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Chair Harrington, commissioners, for the record, my name is Carly Silva Gabrielson, one of your GR members, and I'd like to cover land use planning, which is 4063, House Bill 4063, which set forth new requirements for housing production in the metro region. It also requires the Department of Land Conservation and Development to seek funds from the legislature to provide technical assistance to the counties. We don't currently know the implementation timeline, but I will cover what's specifically included in the measure later in the presentation.
Commissioners, for the record, Zakir Khan, Government Relations Manager here at Washington County. The board set a priority on workforce recruitment and retention tools. I do want to talk about one success that we had during the session, and that's through HB 5204 and House Bill 4002. The policy language includes that we can use the deflection funding for workforce development. That was a really key win, because if there's further authorizations of that funding in the future, we can continue to use that pot of funding for further workforce development. In future sessions, some items that were not successful were pay equity reform efforts, licensure reform efforts, and additional workforce funding, workforce funding, the bigger pots of funding in regards to behavioral health workforce funding.
And I can't remember if it was from my reading of House Bill 4202 and 5204 or a media article. But it sounds like PSU at least, and maybe some other players in higher ed received funding towards the specific purpose of building up the behavioral health workforce. So that's not even tied to deflection, correct?
That's correct. So in House Bill 5204, Portland State and a series of other public universities received funding for scholarships and other program development.
Good. Well, whereas your past session may not have been successful, I happen to believe that that investment of time and the importance of that helped lead towards securing those funds. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so next, I want to talk about our courthouse priorities. So SB 1541 was passed and it's expected to be signed into law. That bill will add an additional judgeship and 4 additional staff members to our courthouse staff, to our circuit court. Our assistant county administrator, Aaron Calvert, will be working to identify courtroom space and workspace. So there's more to come on that and something for you all to keep an eye on. And of course, you know, that judge position, it was really badly needed. It doesn't fully resolve the issue of a shortage of judges and the lack of physical space for them. And on that note, unfortunately, with our courthouse planning, the request for our courthouse planning dollars, that request was not funded in this session. We certainly look forward to advocating for that in the next session. And I just want to thank this board, also our Public Safety Coordinating Council, for all of your leadership and advocacy in support of both the judge and the courthouse planning process. You know, we got one and hopefully we'll get the next one next time. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, Tracy Rainey, Government Relations Manager for Clean Water Services. Thank you, Chair and Board of Directors for Clean Water Services, for having us as part of this presentation today. It was a busy legislative session, including for water quality related issues. As you know, one of our key priorities, longstanding priorities, has been increasing the investment in infrastructure, especially for water related infrastructure. We were really encouraged to see that, as we've talked about accelerating housing production in the state, that there is real recognition of the importance, just the absolute critical importance of having the water infrastructure investment that is necessary to support and allow that housing production to be accelerated. 2 of the bills that were part of the housing package, Senate Bill 1530 and House Bill 4128, included over $90 million in water related infrastructure investment. So again, I think the message is being received. And it's being reflected in the policies that we're seeing moving forward. So we're really encouraged with that. Senate Bill 1537 was the governor's housing bill. We had been working with Representative Hellman. We had talked to the board previously about this on some potential language that would establish a more long-term funding approach for water-related infrastructure to support housing development. Unfortunately, that language, while it was included in the bill as introduced, was not included in the final bill. In part because of a variety of constraints, but we are hoping that there will be continued conversations in the interim and going into 2025. There was language in the bill that has specific agencies doing work and reporting back to the legislature about metrics that could be used to prioritize water-related and other infrastructure funding requests that are necessary to support housing production. So I think we see an opportunity there to advance that policy work that our staff had done. In terms of protecting our infrastructure financing tools, yes.
Had a competitive process on that 90 million. How will that, if there's no carve outs or counties, certain agencies?
That is specific project funding. So a number of, yes, direct allocation of projects. So again, I don't know what we will see in 2025 and if they'll continue the course with that specific project funding. We'll certainly be talking to our legislators about our variety of project needs in the interim in case that is the way that they go about it in future sessions. But I do think they will also continue to work for more of a competitive fund that would be available for entities to compete within. So on our protection of financing tools, it was good to see that there was only one bill really dealing with system development charges, and it was a voluntary program. I know that we talked to the board previously about this, that would allow a jurisdiction to delay collection of SDCs to certificate of occupancy, and then have the state set up a fund if that payment was not made by the developer, that the state would then pay the jurisdiction and then go after the developer for that amount that's due. The bill had a fiscal impact of $10 million for that fund. It made it through the policy committee process, but did not make it through the Ways and Means process. I think that we are encouraged, though, that the conversation is changing from an attack, it feels like, on SDCs to a how can we help support you with this tool in a little bit more, but I think a realistic approach. In terms of water quality protections, emerging contaminants, we were working with the Oregon Association of Clean Water Agencies. They had requested a bill to be introduced through Representative Ken Helm that would fund a study of the fate and transport of PFAS in biosolids. The bill would provide funding to Oregon State University Extension Service for that study. The price tag on the bill or on the study went up quite a bit to $750,000 for this session. It made it through the policy committee, but did not get funded through the Ways and Means process. We will be working with the state association to see if they will be bringing that bill back. I think there is going to be some conversation about whether there are some potential grant opportunities to support that work or other means to advance that additional data and science. In terms of housing production, I already mentioned Senate Bill 1537, which was the governor's housing bill. We had a prior conversation with the board about the nexus of housing production and the need to ensure that water quality protections are not in conflict with some of the acceleration of housing production that we're seeing. In last legislative session, 2023, we'd started that conversation with the governor's office as a result of the bill that the governor brought forward at that time, and seeing some ambiguous language that was less than clear about where things like stormwater requirements, riparian setbacks may be seen as subject to variance, development, adjustment, waiver, essentially. We were able to work with the governor's office through the interim and going into the legislative session to have it in language included in the bill. I included it on this slide that we believe provides the clarity that we need and that cities and counties will need as well to make sure it's very clear when a developer seeks that kind of adjustment, waiver and variance, that it does not include things that we have to do to implement our Clean Water Act permit. Okay. And our last slide, utility resilience. There were just two bills I wanted to make sure to flag. House Bill 4148 included a variety of funding priorities, including increased funding for Invasive Species Council for both education and outreach and mitigation activities. That bill in its form did not pass, but the funding was included in the final budget bill. Which is great news. The reason I flagged this issue, of course, Emerald Ash Borer being an issue that we are very much engaged in, and this funding will be very helpful in that effort to work with the state on that education and outreach. House Bill 4060 is the last bill I wanted to note. That is an additional $10 million in funding that will go through the Oregon Department of Agriculture for conservation easements and conservation management plan assistance, among other related projects that will be helpful in terms of water quality protections and working in partnership with agricultural entities. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Board members, any questions on any of that? Yeah, really great.
Thank you.
So, hot topics.
Yes, hot topics. Well, I guess, what's that? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I'll go. Yeah. I'll just go ahead to the next slide. Okay. So
Don't let the cover slide fool you.
Yeah, right. Thanks. So the first hot topic we're going to touch on is Measure 110 reform. And HB 4002, that was the main policy bill that included the reforms to Measure 110. As you all know, it included a wide range of both behavioral health and public safety related policies. Perhaps most importantly for the county, there were changes to the criminal code for possession and delivery of controlled substances, requirements for supervision of people who are charged with those offenses, and data collection requirements as well for community corrections, our courts and sheriff's office, as well as the creation of several grant programs, including the behavioral health deflection program. I think, you know, the main things I want to flag for you all at this point, I don't want to kind of review what we already discussed in the last meetings, but our community corrections department will be supervising people on diversion for the new drug enforcement misdemeanor. And we want to make sure that people who are charged with that new offense, as much as possible, are deflected into behavioral health programs. If they end up being charged, then they are likely to be supervised by our community corrections department, which means that there will be a greater cost for doing this work if they get to the stage of having to do diversion, right? So that's something to keep in mind as we plan for how to implement this moving forward. And with that in mind, county staff have been coordinating to identify some of the ways that we can set up a deflection program. But of course, they're going to need your partnership, your leadership to really settle on what is the best approach for a deflection program here in Washington County. So there will be certainly more conversation about that coming up. The CJC will also be working with counties to collect data on how many folks are deflected, people who are arrested or charged with these, with the new crime or with the delivery crimes as well. And so right now our staff and the sheriff's office is working to figure out whether our existing data collection systems are going to be able to easily integrate with what the CJC is going to be adding on at this point. So there will be more conversations about those things in the future. But with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Zakir to talk about funding.
Quick item?
Yeah.
Could GR please circulate the letter that we approved to commit ourselves for voluntary diversion? Just resend that to the board. That'd be great.
Sure. Yeah.
Commissioners, SB 5204 is the companion package to House Bill 4002. And I just want to lead with this. This is a significant Washington County win. It's the $8.9 million for the Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment. This was really a significant team effort from behavioral health to staff assistance to all of you as commissioners, all of the various tours that we did. And I just wanted to name that. I also want to name Senator Lieber and the Washington County Caucus for really uplifting this ask, as well as the BIPOC Caucus and also our partners at HealthShare Oregon, who also in their meetings with leadership elevated this ask. In addition to that, there's a couple of other pots of funding that I want to just touch upon briefly. The $20.7 million statewide for deflection programs, we will be getting roughly $1.4 million for that. The first tranche is about $700,000, and that was included in the AOC packet from the meeting that you had earlier this week. In addition to that, we're still awaiting OHA to announce their process for the $9.8 million statewide for community mental health programs for diversion. And of the $16 million for statewide for community corrections, we're getting $1.4 million. Are there any?
Can I ask you a
Sure.
question about the 20 million statewide deflection? Is that contingent on the governor signing the bill first?
Yeah, 5204 has
Yes.
to be signed.
So it has to be signed, and the longer it takes,
She's
we have to wait.
she's
for the-
obligated to sign within 30 days or it automatically passes.
And the governor has given the inclination that she intends to sign the measure in public statements. But she's also said that she's going to be doing some oversight as to how the funds are dispensed. But what we've seen thus far, she intends to sign it.
Yeah, I think the point of my question is, if we're getting delayed accessing this funding, the longer it takes, the signage of the bill.
Pending signage of the bill, yes.
But the criminal code for diversion doesn't start until September, and I think deflection as well. Yes, for deflection as well doesn't take effect until September. So we have time. That's actually 6 months away.
Yes, so the timing of the different criminal codes is September 1st is the one that is for possession. The other thing that has been indicated is of that $20.7 million, the state will allow us to pay retroactively for the work that we do beginning
Oh,
on
okay.
April 1st. So before we have the money in hand, which is already partially guaranteed, we will be able to spend money and be paid back for that work.
And that was
Just to clarify.
Perfect, yeah, that's
Yesterday too.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Wonderful. Commissioners, I'd like to cover 3 measures that were included in the so-called housing package in the interim. or excuse me, in the short session. 4063 incentivizes development for particular types of housing within the metro region. It also includes other technical pieces and fixes to the statute, such as fixing the Oregon housing needs analysis process to clarify the roles of the cities, counties, metro, and the state regarding housing development. Moving on, 1537, as Clean Water Services has already covered, the governor's housing bill. Just to unpack some other details of it, the bill does create a one-time urban growth boundary expansion for cities that have not expanded the UGB within the past 20 years, and that also do meet other state requirements for UGB expansion. Cities will still have to qualify based on state requirements and coordinate with the county and other service providers. But under the new statute, cities in the metro region will be allowed to expand by 300 net residential acres and outside of the metro by 50 net residential acres. It also creates the Housing Accountability and Production Office, the HAPO, which will provide technical assistance to local governments about their implementation of housing laws related to land use and development codes, review and provide mediation of permitting and projects when needed, and establish policy and funding priorities for state agencies for addressing barriers to housing production. The HAPO is directed to prioritize working with local governments voluntarily seeking assistance. And then the last one, SB 1530, will essentially provide crucial funding to support the fabulous work that our housing services team does here in Washington County.
So you had mentioned earlier, if I might,
Please.
that on the housing production 1537, that was it there? No, it was on a previous one. Sorry. Yes. It was on the stabilized funding land use planning. We don't know the implementation timeframe yet. Is that all bound up in the
Chair, just quick correction that the implementation time frame was for 4063. That is still unknown.
yeah, that's what I
Um,
was trying to come back to
correct.
the previous reference.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay,
for that
thank you. I think it boils down to, we have to be aware of the state requirements because we have the staff that we have in LUT for planning and got to get SNR done. And we have the staff that we have for building services and inspections, for example. Those are funded through permit fees. So we don't have the financial capacity to bring on more people to do state mandated work. So we have to be very mindful of that and see what implications there may be as a result. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chair.
I have a question on USB, UGB expansions.
Yes, Commissioner
A
Roberts.
little lost in all, not your rhetoric, but as it was going through. Potentially 300 acres, as I recall. And how are those, I guess, prorated out? I mean, everybody could grab 300 acres. But is there a mechanism to that? And if it's too lengthy, you can tell me later, but how's that going to work?
Yeah, really great question. I'd love to follow up with you in writing about the prioritization of how those acres will be assessed and get you more
Somebody
information.
share that with everyone.
But it
also-
still has to
Yeah.
go through Metro.
Correct.
It's not independent. Cities can't just say, oh, I want this much of the 300 and I want this much of the 300. Nope, it's Metro.
Well, that's a good point. That
That's
was going
the
to be my
next-
follow-up question. And in those areas which are not in metro, but in the county, what's our involvement? So can you let us know that as well?
Will do.
I mean, North Plains would be one of them, the obvious ones.
North Plains, Banks and Gaston.
Yeah, all of them, yeah. Okay.
For that. Moving on for further legislative hot topics, Senate Bill 1575, the duty to defend. It did pass both chambers. However, it has not yet been signed into law. We are involved in direct conversations with the governor's office regarding the possible financial impacts and burdens that this statute could place on local governments. and will continue to engage heavily. Regarding Senate Bill 1576, recreational community immunity, provided protections for an interim period that will allow local governments to keep recreational spaces open to the public. We are coordinating with AOC to develop a permanent solution in the interim, and we'll work with AOC to provide information on the impacts to Washington County residents. And just the transition slide, we wanted to provide you the snapshot of the 2024 calendar for the rest of the legislative year. This just details task force days and legislative committee days that we will be working towards and fully engaged in.
But could I ask, because of you folks, you experts, you've sensitized me to, there is a pre-session filing deadline in September. I only need to know it's September, like 1st, question mark?
I believe it's the 27th.
Oh, 27th.
Yes, that red box.
Oh, that's the red one.
And I think
Got
it's the
it.
request deadline.
Okay, thank you.
So could
By
you
the way,
remind-
Catherine, that's the same date that the Council of Forest Trust Lands and the small table
Ah.
folks are focused on as well. So
Interesting. Okay, September's going to be exciting.
Yes, it will. Thank you, Chair.
So,
Welcome aboard, Carly.
so I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner
If,
Trees.
if what you just covered is a short session, how do we currently define a long session? I mean,
Really, really busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
160 days, full sprint.
I understand it. And I just want to say, thank you. And the amount of work that was done in this session was amazing. But I recognize that a lot of it had to do with our legislators and their ability to come to the table and get things done. But I also recognize that a huge part of what you do is educating our legislators about the issues and how those issues affect their constituents. And Zachary, you mentioned the tours. I saw that firsthand on the tours, and I got text messages when that bill passed from people that I don't think had the same level of awareness before. So my hat is off to you for the public outreach that you went through to make sure that the education was there, and especially the education and the awareness that this was a wonderful tool. So that's just one little piece. Thank you.
Our thank you machine.
I'm sorry,
No,
but
you're good. It's always very genuine.
well, and I guess it was because of our involvement in that particular piece that I saw the impact firsthand.
Thank you, Commissioner. So during the interim, there will be a variety of task forces and work groups that we'll be participating in, either directly or indirectly. The first one we want to talk about is the Courthouse Facilities Task Force. This actually just wrapped up last week. So it was active before and after the legislative session. And essentially the goal of this task force is it's convened by the Association of Oregon Counties and the Oregon Judicial Department. And their goal is to prioritize courthouse projects, whether they're planning projects, replacement projects, renovations, that sort of thing. And then that priority list is given to the Chief Justice, who traditionally basically kind of copies that list and puts it into their recommended budget, which is sent to the legislature so that they then have a sense of which projects to prioritize. But it's a really important process, and Chair Harrington was a participant in that. And Aaron Calvert and I presented to the group, and the end result is that we were ranked 3rd out of 5 planning projects in terms of the priority list. So that's a slight improvement from last time where we were ranked 5th on that list. And I should also just clarify, we were tied for 3rd in case that's important to anyone. But yeah, I just want to thank Chair Harrington for her participation in that task force. And, you know, we certainly look forward to advocating for the courthouse project in the next session as well.
Commissioners will also be continuing to work on HB 4056, which was the so-called foreclosure fix. Essentially, what the bill did was place a pause on counties taking deeds until the end of 2025, which will allow time for counties to come up with a process that meets the requirements of the Supreme Court case, Hennepin v. Tyler. In the interim and next year, the statute directs Department of Revenue to coordinate with the counties to then set forth a set of recommendations to the state legislature for a future bill. So we are going to be closely coordinating with AOC in this capacity to ensure that that Washington County has a really robust process that serves our constituents in the county, and that we have a seat at the table when the legislature crafts the new bill.
Commissioners, I'll talk a little bit about pay equity. So during the session, Chair Holvey, who heads the House Business and Labor Committee, announced that because the pay equity bill was not going to be moving forward, that he was going to be starting up a work group. But at the tail end of session, he announced that this was going to be his last session. So it's not clear that where the work group is going to currently land. I followed up with his office, and so we're just waiting to see if he's going to delegate it to one of his vice chairs or if he's going to carry the issue forward over the interim. House Bill 4003 was our bill, the Medical Examiner Modernization Bill. So we are currently still participating within the Medical Examiner in Improvement in Oregon work group. Yes, that is MEOW for short. And so we're working via our regional representation and also the Association of Oregon Counties. And as relevant to House Bill 4003, OSP has to put together a set of information to report out on the bill. And so we will be submitting information as those requests come in via OSP.
And just to touch again on recreational immunity, we will be continuing to work in the interim with AOC to assess the needs of solutions to, again, ensure that our trails and public spaces can remain open to the public.
Is this one that the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association has involvement with? Okay.
That's correct, Chair. Thank you.
Are they great?
Good job.
So besides the interim next steps and the work groups that will be playing supportive roles to AOC or more actively engaging in, there's the work to be done with you, as we set ourselves up for 2025. So building this bridge through Clean Water Services, wanted to provide you with a timeline of the kind of the next quarter. So in April, we're going to work with the CAO team, set you up for a successful initial conversation with the legislature on the public safety and justice needs in Washington County. And then in May, we'll start working with your board to set ourselves up for an approach to the legislative agenda for 2025, really focusing on what are our big needs, what are the things that we need to be paying most attention to, what are the resources that we need to continue the work that we're doing. And we are tentatively scheduled to meet with your board during the work session on May 7th to start that process. In June, we know that's when a lot of the interim work groups and task forces tend to meet and do their work, something about the summer. So we'll be working through those. That'll help us flag other issues that might be coming forward in the 2025 session. We also know that's really when the state budget process really picks up for the departments. And that's another place where we can, their process is starting now, honestly, where they're assessing their needs and making requests of the governor's office. And then the governor's office goes through their process and then it becomes there. So that's where our participation as a county saying, hey, DLCD, you are required to seek funding for county technical assistance related to House Bill 4063. Let's see that in your policy option packages or your base budget. Those sorts of conversations will take place across the state budget process. In addition, we'll be continuing the conversations internally, looking to your board, the leadership and departments of the county, and setting our own prioritizations and recognizing what needs and needs we expect to have both on a policy and on a budgetary need from the state starting in June, and then continuing all of that work through July. To your comment, Chair, about being aware of pre-session filing deadlines and concepts being due on September 27th, or at least earmarked for, not earmarked, but marked for consideration. We are going to work this session to ramp up the agenda creation process a little bit faster so that we can have those policy concepts, if we need them, ready earlier, and at least have initially had the buy-in of the board. If we don't have a finalized agenda through September, at least be a lot closer, that we aren't getting ahead of you and you're setting our guide, you're guiding us with what we need to be putting bills in for, as we also look at the budget needs that we have. So that is our goal, why we are starting this process in May, and we will be back with you then. In the meantime, any questions? I just love that owl.
Owls.
Questioning owl. We have really appreciated the direct engagement that the board has put forward this year. It's been proven vital to our successes, and we will continue to work that through the interim with you, figure out the places where we need to start those conversations, the courthouse being the greatest example of that, so that we're prepared and have already shown our delegation what they need to be supporting us in, and have you as their regular contacts through the rest of the year. So that way, when we call on you in 2025 to provide that testimony and information to the legislature, you have the relationships developed. Any questions for the team?
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Question, yeah, but just for context, how big is the state budget? I could Google, I guess.
We will get back to you with that because I don't want to misspeak. It's bigger than ours.
It's always interesting that they give you a few million and act like that's a big deal. I think they're probably multi hundreds of billions of dollars, if not. So I just wondered what you're getting in terms of.
We will get back to the board with information about that, and we might do a little bit more of a detailed analysis when we come back for that May 7th to kind of look at where there's opportunities to seek those larger investments out of the state.
One of the things that I haven't seen in a long time, and it may be because I haven't looked hard enough for it, it would be wonderful to get just a high-level pie chart of what are the major buckets where the state budget goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be
we'll
very
track that down.
helpful. Yes.
Pretty list for where that money goes.
Well, that's $1 million question there, right? Because with 90 different members of the state legislature, get at least 90 different answers.
I'd like to
Or
think
the-
they have
or
some common focus of what's really important.
Where the money is spent is the priority.
So-
Fast backwards a little.
So to wrap it up, I have one question. If you go back one slide. So the AOC pledge retreat in late June is being rescheduled. I assume to another date in late June, but I don't know. Given how the scheduling of it got past them for so long, despite there being a meaningful conflict. And the reason that I raised that is relative to the September pre-file date and making sure that the commissioners that participate in AOC steering committees and the ledge committee have that same level of awareness on the timeline. So, just helpful.
Okay. We'll wrap that into these future timelines and make sure that we're all prepared to support you through that legislative retreat process.
Well, I think the support of our government relations team for the board is unequivocal. Thank you. We know it, we see it. We're engaged with you. You engage with us. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All righty. we're just a little bit ahead of schedule. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yes.
So board and leadership communication, and I've already gone. So who else would like to go next?
And would.
It's always me.
I will do it. I will do it. I'll be quick too. So I think I sent you the information in an email, the roundtable that I participated, the IIJA roundtable. It's focused on opportunity for modernizing public transit. Um, it was a really good information. The other, thing that I learned that I wanted to just for board awareness, to raise it is, TriMet is converting its entire 800 diesel bus fleet to electric buses by 2035. As you all know, TriMet is Oregon's single largest user of diesel in the state, and the promise is they will not buy any more diesel buses, period. They are going to have a combination of a battery electric buses and hydrogen electric buses. The difference between the two, battery buses only operate about 125 miles a charge, and hydrogen electric buses operate about 300 miles a charge. So that was a really good information that others benefited in the roundtable. And let me know I get that as well electronically. The other thing for board awareness, as your rep on WCCC, that was yesterday. WCCC meeting happened yesterday. The big topic was, the group was voting on was the MSTIP 3F funding allocations, to recommend, to recommend to us, to the board, and the proposal of the $250 million, and the committee voted unanimously to recommend tax recommendation to us. So, and that is coming to us November 16th. April 16th.
Oh, hey, I have company. April 16th, there we go.
How did I
was
make
gonna say
that large leap? I have no idea.
We were talking elections.
Oh, okay, thank you.
See, I can
Grace
take that
likes it.
logical
Thank
leap.
you. I appreciate that. Election. That's where I got the November, but April 16th, the topic is coming to
Yeah,
our
don't
work
rush us
session.
through summer yet, please.
Yes,
The
I
spring
know.
is just at our doorstep, so.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's happening as your board rep this week is a JPAC meeting is happening Thursday, not tomorrow. I almost said tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Thursday. And there's not any big topics on the agenda that we need to have a board discussion so that I can vote for. So it's just informational only. So rest assured, I won't be taking any votes on behalf of our board.
So let's see, it's the middle of March. At what point during the year will JPAC and the Metro Council need to close on the RTP? Is it done?
It's done last November.
Mary Nolan was the one dissenting vote.
Oh, I
was
forgot.
last
So
November.
it's just the UGR that's the
Yeah.
big deal this year.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the next biggest. I jumped from April to November, so I thought it was,
No trick.
I thought it was a date related and I was like, oh, I don't, but, I think the other big discussion vote will be the Rafa. So,
Oh, yeah.
but
Good old
that's to be
grants.
continued, nothing
Yeah.
big. So, and that concludes my update.
Who's
Commissioner,
next?
If you want to go.
Jerry's next.
Okay, so obviously last week there was a couple of days that I was on vacation and I came back on Wednesday and Thursday, went to San Francisco for the Genentech Local Government Affairs Spring Forum. That was basically where we go down and we visit their South San Francisco campus. It's about 200 acres, 60 buildings. I think they have around 10 to 12,000 employees in there. They are absolutely maxed out and have been for a number of years. So they're looking at kind of a construction, I think, redesign of that facility, but that'll come about. They are the largest biomedical company in the world. They're owned by Roche, out of Switzerland. And they are doing, I mean, they've just a number of really great things that I appreciate certainly all the work that they do. And we are the benefactors partially up here by the Hillsborough location. Of course, they've added 2 new buildings in the last few years, and they have space to add 1 more if they need it, and if they can, I guess, work that direction. So stay tuned with that. It's always good to go down and have that conversation with them. They're from an environmental and sustainability company. They have 72 electric buses, and they are experiencing unforeseen issues with those 72 buses. So I hope TriMet is long-term in their conversion anticipation because there are some complications with that. Obviously, 125 miles isn't a very isn't a lot of miles when you're putting on a public bus. And the hydrogen part too was interesting that you mentioned that, because they mentioned that as well. Afterwards, hydrogen is certainly where everybody wants to be going in the future. It's a much better process, of which I have no knowledge of whatsoever, but it was interesting to hear them and their focus and their investment on sustainability. So it was good to hear that. Friday, there was a special small table forestry meeting again called, and we began to work on of what will be probably a 8 or 10 page memo on recap. And going forward, we're going to take that memo and meet with all 15 trust counties. We're going to try and pull that together in April and probably May, and it may be all-day sessions in Salem. So we'll see what that looks like. We need to move this thing forward because we need to have consensus so that we can have something, a draft constructed by the September 27th date that we were just talking about. So it's going to be, it'll be interesting to see where we go with all of that. And we have presented, of course, 3 options. We'll be presenting 3 options to the governor and details as to how that would look like. Also, Friday was the PSCC meeting, and as I indicated, I missed the first 20 or 30 minutes of that. But Chair, thank you for being there and certainly listening to that. And we had a Lane County presentation that was really good, and they're working with our Sheriff's Department on some of their processes that sounded very cool and certainly successful. Our chair, Rachel Schutz, brought up the county-wide offender risk assessment process that is basically being driven by the double homicide in Sherwood a couple years ago. And so now there's an evaluation process on an assessment on individuals that would be determined as to they qualify for release while pending jail space and certainly court time.
Both of those topics related to pretrial release.
Yeah. So then, yesterday I was down in Salem with Catherine and Pam, and for me, because I missed the kind of the update that Aaron brought us on Measure 110 reform and implementation, it was really educational for me to just listen to that. It was kind of like a blank page. So, and there's a lot more to it. So I'll look forward to learning more as we go through that, but that's going to be interesting. Finished up last night with North Plains State of the City. So went to Mayor Linehan's State of the City for about 45 minutes. And then I headed off to Forest Grove to present to the Forest Grove City Council at 7 o'clock. And I don't see Marnie, but I hope she's listening because the mayor had high accolades for Marnie and her team and for Jess and her team and the work that they've done in Forest Grove. the community involvement, their response to questions and challenges and all of that. So kudos to you, Marnie, and certainly to Jess for the work that you're doing there. Good job, because we certainly need all the good public relations we can get in this.
And that's related to homelessness and affordable housing.
Correct. Both cases, sorry.
It's okay.
Um,
Team effort here.
I have a Salmonberry Trail Foundation meeting tonight, but I won't be making that because of our change in our board meeting tonight. So I have a meeting tomorrow with the executive director to get caught up on that. And then Aging and Veterans Services Advisory meeting on Thursday and Rural Roads Operations next week. So pretty light week next week. So
I forgot to mention at the AOC Governance, Revenue, and Veterans Steering Committee meeting last Monday while you were out, we had a really great presentation on veterans.
So yeah, if you could
It is
find
very,
me the link on that, that'd be great. I'd like to do that. That's like
it's right on the AOC page.
AOC and what was the title?
Medical.
Okay,
Governance, Revenue, and Veterans Steering.
thank you. Okay, that's all I got.
Ready to go?
Well, you've already got.
Plus, I'm obviously
Okay,
doing
team
what,
effort here.
it's like being in class and trying to get your notes together right before you know you have to speak. So, I know, but I'm just saying I'm just adding on.
He always
Thank you.
adds cleanup.
So, last week I had a really great, meeting with Diane and Joe Gall from Clean Water Services. Thank you for the time and the effort you put into catching me up, but I didn't get to wear a lab coat in that meeting. I'm just saying that.
Oh, that's right.
You all got
Yeah,
to
we
wear
got
that.
to, and we got to do lab experiments.
Yeah, I know. But it was still, I think we were together for over an hour and just really good discussion, and it helped me looking at governance issues and CWS into the future and just understanding all the parameters there. We had our regular impact coordinating committee meeting this last week, and that went well. The impact meeting is going to be next Wednesday night during spring break. I'm going to be calling, I'll be gone, but it's all on Zoom this month, so it's not a problem. And I'll be able to lead the meeting on Zoom. The agenda, I was just looking to see if I could find the agenda items. The most important piece, I think, is going to continue to be the UGR forecast information that we're getting. So that's the piece that I'll be interested in watching. I attended the North Bethany County Service District for Roads Committee meeting last week, and as Stephen Roberts did a great job there, he said that he's going to be stepping away, and Jessica Pels is going to be doing a lot more of that work. But there were good questions. It was good presentation and preparation for budget work, so it was well done. I also attended the RDPO meeting on Friday. The highlights of that meeting are that the budget was passed, and that's a good thing. The core members all voted yes, and everybody else passed it. And I've been in conversations with John Wheeler about our contribution and how it fits into our budget, and I'm comfortable there. An interesting thing happened. Commissioner Renee Gonzalez from Portland wanted some time on the agenda, and Mayor Ann from Vancouver was very gracious and gave him some time, but it turned out to be a big discussion about with a motion to engage the entire region to join their elections and candidate security coordination initiative. And I'll tell you right now, I was not prepared to vote on that. Nobody was. I was not alone there. And I made the comment to the group that this came too quickly for me. I need to have some more information, need to be able to talk to our elections group and to my fellow commissioners. So I'm going to abstain. So my vote was
No, vote no.
well, I voted to abstain, but I knew it was going to go down. So that's where. Okay.
You didn't follow good process
Well,
for engaging
it went
regional
down.
partners.
It did go down. So, and Ann did a good job of steering it that way. So that, I just wanted you to be aware that that movement toward election security is gaining some toehold, if you will, in the Portland metropolitan area. And I'm not sure how that will affect.
Well, I have faith in our elections team for following through on appropriate election security with IT and under our management. And in no way are we compelled to follow City of Portland policy procedure.
I-
Just making sure it's said.
Thank you. So I'm rounding out this week with the ERMDAC meeting, and then I have a community action meeting. And I'll be in attendance for the Recycling Modernization Act training for local government officials. That's going to be, I believe, Friday of this week. And lastly, on Friday, I'm checking in with Lillian Sy, the co-chair for ACRE. She couldn't be at our organizing meeting, have ahead of the ACRE meetings. So we're just going to go over the agenda together. So, and I'll be out next week, Monday through Thursday for Smith Rec. But I will be doing some work in there like band.
Yeah, I'm planning on being out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least.
But that was just for school kids.
Yeah.
I was a school kid.
Great place to work,
Yeah.
you know?
We were all.
You may be a family of one, but you're still a family.
Roy's not gonna take any days.
Absolutely.
He told me he will.
Cutting half-time, 12 hours a day. Promise.
He'll take the other half off.
Half, yeah, the other half a day off. You saw probably from my schedule what I'm doing this week. I've got a 12 chamber, what they call Business Advocacy Council. They're going to discuss their recent activities at their business awards night, which I went to about a week ago. And so that's predominantly that schedule. WA has their board meeting. I don't even know the agenda yet. That hasn't been posted. They just got busy with their recent meeting. I guess Diane was a speaker at. I'm sorry I couldn't go, but right before tax deadline, so I couldn't. I also have CFO checking, I think, with you, but I just told Greg, I don't think I can make that because I'm sandwiching that in between a House Bill 2017 Transit Committee meeting at TriMet, and so maybe we can move the time around. Well, interesting meetings, but I don't put my schedule. I had a function over the weekend, and I heard this Roy. That was old acquaintance of mine, Earl Blumenauer, and Earl was telling me what he's going to do after his leaving of Congress. And, chatting about some old times. It's always interesting to see Earl. And I was chatting with probably the newest member of the TriMet board, who was my area. He was telling me a bit about his experiences, which are interesting to get board perspective.
Oh, Robert Kellogg.
Yeah, do you know Robert?
Yeah. Tualatin.
Well,
Well, thank you.
then he was on the Southwest Corridor. That's where
Yeah.
he got from. But he's trying to convince people that there has to be a fare box because there has to be some contribution. And that there's a lot of folks who think it ought to be free, and how they attend their meetings is, let's say, a little noisy and a little disruptive. And so it's a real eye awakening for a city councilor from the city of Tualatin to go to those kind of meetings. But that's quite interesting as well. Next Monday, I don't know if Jerry, you're attending this, that I think it's the Transportation Council for Washington County chamber. I attend to them regularly. I don't know what the topic is. I haven't sent it out. So that's enough.
I actually have that on my calendar already.
Oh, good. And happy time off for all of you for getting it off. And thank you, Jerry, for your work on all of the forestry. I happen to be involved with various jurisdictions that are rural, in addition to the other things I do, but they really depend on that lumber, and I know you've been involved as well. Yeah. So that's really pretty important for them.
Oh, he's carrying the load right now.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
So he'll let us know if he needs our opinions on something or scan of something.
Yeah.
Okay,
Have a letter?
2 letters.
Yeah. I actually didn't bring my hard copy, so I need to open my laptop. We have one or two. I thought it was only one. It's just one. Yeah, yeah. We included the original letter. So
Oh,
that
you're
you
right.
Have that. So it was in the packet. I asked Jory to help craft up thank you, a draft response to the letter, basically in short form. I didn't have any problem with any of the things that they raised in their letter, so just thanking them for their letter and onward we go. But if you have any suggestions or whatnot,
One, two, three, fourth paragraph, graph down, third line, including whose, I think that's supposed to be those.
including those of community
It
corrections.
says
Yep.
whose, yeah.
Anything else?
I know. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
I think I highlighted it.
Thank you.
Oh, it's
So we're
highlighted.
putting our best foot forward. So it'll go to all the members of the Public Safety Coordinating Council. I also need to make sure it goes to our CAO, who's on there, and Aaron Calvert. Awesome. Thumbs up.
Good.
Okay, terrific. Leadership communication, take it away.
Right. Well, I've actually been waiting for this moment because I have a couple introductions I would like to make. So first, I would like to ask Lisa and Ryan to come up. So I am very pleased to introduce Washington County's new Deputy Chief Human Resources Officer, Brian Light. This is the first time Washington County has had this position. This is not a new FTE. This is part of a restructuring that Lisa has conducted within the HR department. So I just want to share a bit about Brian and then turn it over to Lisa and Brian. Brian comes to us with 2 decades of dedicated service to the state of Oregon. Brian's Light's career is marked by diverse roles and significant contributions. Beginning as a training and development specialist, Brian's journey through state service has included pivotal positions such as program manager for the workers' comp and Oregon insurance divisions, deputy administrator of the Division of Finance and Corporate Securities, HR Director of Department of Consumer and Business Services, and Deputy Chief Human Resources Officer for the state of Oregon. I cut out about 3 other paragraphs about Brian because he comes to us very well accomplished HR professional, but also just community member too. So just really thrilled that he has chosen to step into this new role, and his wealth of experience understanding policy and human resources and just making a positive impact on the lives of others.
Thank you for extending public service for us here in
Happy to.
Washington County.
Welcome.
So I do know upcoming on a roundtable, the chair and I have discussed Lisa coming and talking about just the evolution and modernization of HR, just so that the board has that understanding, because our employees are so valued here at Washington County. So we won't spend time on that, but just Lisa, can you just share just the oversight Brian will have in the department and how you're structuring the work? And we can dive deeper at a further time during a round.
Yeah, and thank you and good afternoon. Always a pleasure to be before you. So when I came on board, HR had a little more of a flat structure. It was the Chief Human Resources Officer with about 5 or 6 managers beneath, with the different functional areas over HR. And so we basically recycled the Employee and Labor Relations Manager position using existing resources to create this position. So that we had, I call it 2 sides of the house. There's the people side of the house and the operational side of the house. Maintaining the operational side of the house with benefits, class comp, business systems, and then also risk management division. And then Brian's area of oversight will be more the people side, life cycle of the employee. So when they come on board through talent acquisition, then employee and labor relations, and then learning and development. And so I'm very excited with this new organizational structure. I think it'll bring additional bench strength at the leadership level in HR. And when we were interviewing for this position, one of the things that really struck me with Brian was his empathetic style of leadership, his experience with talent acquisition, and then also labor in particular. And with the empathetic leadership, really looking forward to like harnessing his skill set in that way towards our more human-centered approaches that we're working on in HR, and creating better experience for employees while managing all the compliance things that HR has to do. So, and with that, Brian, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to come before you this afternoon and introduce myself. I'm on day 2 and loving every minute of it. My decision to come here was made easy once I heard Lisa's commitment to both the concept of One Washington County and once I heard her commitment to an employee-centered approach to HR, it was a no-brainer because both those things would be extremely important to me. And so to be able to join this already strong team is just a blessing. And so I'm thrilled to be here. There's a lot of great work that we have in front of us, and I'm excited to get started. So with that, I'll take any questions, but I just thank you for the opportunity to meet you and look forward to the work. Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Good to be here.
Thank you again, Ms. Angie. It just really reminds me of how grateful I am for your leadership and making sure that our Design the Future work here at Washington County really up-leveled the importance of HR and our people asset management, right? And making sure that we're investing in ourselves as an organization and in our workforce. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
So let me move on to another introduction, and this is also a day 2 introduction. So I would like to ask Maria Gomez and Julia Phillip, I don't think Julia or both to join. So I actually met Maria, and she didn't know it was me as county administrator the first day of her interview. And then I was at a community event and I saw her again, surrounded by some people, and I caught myself by saying, I think I know you from somewhere. And I'm glad I didn't because she was with her former employer. But I did remember Maria on her first day or her first interviewing for the position. So Maria is joining the county administration office as our bilingual Spanish English public affairs and communications coordinator. In Maria's new role with the county, Maria will provide communication support with the continuity of government for the scope of following departments. And today is quite timely because you just heard from assessment, taxation, elections today, economic development, and community development. Maria will also be working alongside other communicators across the organization to facilitate community education and engagement for Spanish speakers within the parameters of ARPA rescue plan funding that supports her position. So this is one of our capacity positions that we've been able to bring on to the county and really enhance our bilingual support, communication support here at Washington County. Most recently, Maria joins us from serving as a legislative aide for both Senator Janine Solomon and Representative Barbara Smith Warner. So welcome, Maria, and I'll turn it over to Julie to say anything.
Yeah, we're just really thrilled to have Maria join our team. She fills some very big shoes left by Sylvia Perrieta, who moved in November. I must say that Maria has just hit the ground running. She's already starting to learn a lot about the organization, and she's hearing One Washington County quite a bit in the last day and a half, and I'm just really pleased to have her on our team.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you all, and I'm really excited to be working here. I'm a lifelong resident of Washington County, so the community drives me, and I'm really passionate about this, and I'm just really excited to be working with the Latinx community in this new capacity. So,
well, thank you. Yes, that's awesome.
That message in Spanish.
Buenos días todos. Mi nombre es María. Gracias por dándome la oportunidad para introducirme a yo misma. He vivido en el condado de Washington toda mi vida, entonces estoy bien orgullosa de trabajar con el condado y ayudar con mi comunidad latina.
That's pretty safe because not one of us have understood.
No, but we have community that listens, and thank you
Absolutely.
for doing, thank
Yeah,
you for the
thank you.
suggestion.
Thank you.
Julie, you look very happy about that comment.
We're all very happy.
So this is not only for the skill set of bilingual, I want to speak to a bit of the work. This is the first time that we've actually been able to have dedicated support for our elections division. It was mentioned today, Philip. It has been the Philip and Julie team prior to that point. And our communications needs here at Washington County continue to grow, and we need to help make sure that both Philip and Julie and other communications team members have work-life integration. So speaking of work-life integration, I will be starting vacation on March 23rd and returning on April Fool's Day. So I will return on April Fool's Day. It won't be April Fool's. Erin Calvert will be covering during this time. And just as I customarily do, I'll send a reminder email to your board. On Friday, I sent an email to the board with the Measure 110 update, for the public and other staff members who may be listening. In our One Washington County approach, staff from the County Administration Office, Public Safety, Health and Human Services, and others came together to discuss implementation options for deflection. The initial meeting was focused on determining what information needs, resources, and other needs we have prior to applying for the grant. This was really the key organizing meeting. It's key. This is just start of the process. We are planning on sending your board weekly updates as we move forward because we know there's interest and we have timing needs to be ready for September. So more to come.
We have, as a board, a role to play.
Correct.
Submitting the grants.
Correct. So we will be on that journey together as we move forward. And that concludes my update.
Great.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I have some brief updates on some of the litigation that we've been working on. Lots going on in that area right now. On the Thompson case, the jail death case from 2017, we were successful in motions for summary judgment on that case, removing the federal claims. So what remains for this case that's scheduled in May are just state negligence claims. And we're trying to set up a mediation session for either Friday this week or Monday this week or next week to discuss potential settlement. Let's see. Talked a lot about Mr. Betchart and his situation as was referred. He had a trial scheduled for last week, and the court decided to remove him off the docket and send it to the aid and assist docket. So he's going to have an evaluation done. He's got 3 criminal charges, some with prison time implications. And then he's got a civil contempt charge related to the Washington County's case with him bringing stuff onto his property. So his next trial date is June 14th. It shouldn't surprise anybody that the aid and assist docket is really backed up and getting evaluations takes some time. Just a reminder that your board passed ordinance 882 regarding future transportation studies in the Shoals area, and we've received numerous loop appeals on that case, so they're all getting consolidated, and we will report back when we have more to report back on that case because we don't know what their arguments are at this point. One of our flavor tobacco ban cases is at the Court of Appeals. I just wanted to remind you that oral argument at the Court of Appeals is on the March 28th. So we won't have a board meeting until after that. So I just want you to be aware of it and just remind you that it often takes the Court of Appeals a long time to make decisions.
Darn.
I know. So we have an outstanding case, the election case regarding that was argued in December, and we still don't have a decision on that case either. So that is moving along though. Now some elections issues.
Okay.
News to report, the North Plains UGB expansion referendum situation. We got a lawsuit filed against us today, as well as against North Plains regarding the referendum and whether it should be on the ballot or not, based upon the legislation that the governor has not signed yet. So I just want you to be aware that we did get in the lawsuit as a declaratory action filed by the proponents of the referendum, and their position with the court is obviously this should continue to be on the ballot. So that should
Process wise, that's been filed, if I heard your wording correctly.
yes, and
So my question is thus, how does the Secretary of State get informed about the fact that a lawsuit's been filed?
they have already been informed about this case.
Okay. Because you made sure they were informed?
We made sure they were informed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
We are waiting word on whether they are going to give us some sort of direction as the elections supervisor. We haven't heard anything.
Okay.
And then finally, you heard a great presentation by our elections people, and Dan was talking about security and assuring that elections are open and fair. You may recall that there was a lawsuit filed against the Secretary of State, and we were also named as a defendant. We call the Thielman case. So this case was brought by some folks that ran for elections and were not successful, as well as some citizens. And their claim was essentially that vote by mail is inherently suspect and unconstitutional, and are asking federal courts to basically declare that we can't do vote by mail in our, okay? They, that case went to federal district court, and the court said you don't have standing to sue in this case. That case was affirmed by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So what's the final step in the process? United States Supreme Court. They have filed for certiorari.
What does that mean?
Which is, please hear our case.
Okay.
Which,
Did everybody file that?
well,
Sorry, I'm a total newbie to.
yeah,
Supreme
so
Court
that
language.
is a very common thing to happen when you don't like the decision you received at the circuit court level. And the court hears 10%, accepts cert in about 10% of the cases. And they, so anyway, it's now in the Supreme Court's hands on whether they want to hear the case or not.
Darn, I would have loved to have heard Nate Totenberg's voice talk about this lawsuit, state of Oregon and vote by mail.
Maybe she will. It's not gonna be me. Yeah. So yes. So we just received that today, and so more to come. Like I said, 90% of those cases don't even, the court does not hear, but just wanted to inform you
Alrighty.
where we're at in that case.
Never a
And the
dull
Secretary of State is defending that case. We're just an ancillary piece of it because we have an elections office. And that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Nope, I think I'll take a pass on all things legal. Diane Taniguchi Dennis, Clean Water Services.
Thank you, Chair Harrington and Board of Clean Water Services. I just have one item I would like to share that with 50% of our team members having been at Clean Water Services for less than 5 years, our Culture, Equity, and Learning Program team developed a district-wide leadership program. And for team members to learn about the district strategy, communication skills, working with the public, teamwork, equity, diversity, inclusion, public service, conflict management, and personal resilience. And the chair came to the group that the wastewater resource recovery department did. So now this has been extended district-wide. So the first cohort, this cohort had 14 team members. They were across all departments at Clean Water Services, and each one had a mentor that they selected. And they've now each created a leadership development plan for themselves that they've shared with their mentor and with their supervisors to continue to support their leadership development. And as of today, they're going to provide a written evaluation, and they're very excited to be the alumni so they can cheer on the next group that's probably going to start. The applications will happen in May. So for the first group, there were 58 applications. So we expect a whole lot more. But the goal is to be cross-functional and in a diverse group. So they were amazing today. So I'm hoping we could get a board member to come talk to them. This next group. So
Yes.
yeah, we sure will. But there are 14 very happy and amazing leaders. That's yeah, great.
They're having their best day.
Their best day. And they talked about how they would have never have met each other really, but for this. And now they have a network of people across the district. So we're very excited.
Neat.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's it. For that, formal agenda discussion. Are there any questions on any of the items that are on this evening's agenda?
I noticed one of the topic got removed, the action item.
Yep. Lack of materials for the packet. So,
It'll come back when there's the full set of materials ready.
yep. Making sure our community has access to it. So, yep. Anything else? All righty, well, that's it then. I have no reason to not be on time for the meeting with the governor. But there you go. See ya. We're adjourned.
Time at that.
5:15.
Oh.